Hello, everyone. Welcome into the Fantasy Life Show. We are so excited to be back with you today. Kendall, Valenzuela, and of course, the one and only Thor Nystrom with you today, talking all things mock drafts. The mock draft is live at fantasylife.com, or it's for Thursdays, presented by DraftKings. So here we go. It's the best time of the year, Thor. How's it going? How you doing? This is your time.
It sure is. Yeah, we're in draft season now. We got the Super Bowl done. We're getting into the mock drafts, getting into the scouting reports. I'm excited to get to Indianapolis, the NFL Combine here in a couple weeks, and excited to talk about this round one mock with you today, Kendall.
It'll be so exciting. Like I said, this is your bread and butter. This is like Christmas every single day. We're leading up to you going to the Combine. We're leading up to, like we said, the NFL draft. So what's your favorite part of this kind of off season right now? What's your favorite part of all this?
Finding sleepers, getting into the weeds, and finding guys whose circumstance went against them in college, but who maybe if they find a better one going forward that they could contribute in the NFL. I love sleeper hunting.
I love it. And we love that for us too, because then you just give us all the little information and we say, yeah, no, we knew that from our one and only Thor Nystrom. So let's get it going here, Thor. We're doing rapid fire today, folks. So we're going to go through every single pick that you have in this mock draft, starting with number 1, the Tennessee Titans. Who do you have them taking?
I have them taking Colorado quarterback Shedeur Sanders. I'm not going to back off this thing until we get credible information that pushes me off it. I believe that Shedeur Sanders is the best quarterback in this class. Cam Ward is the betting favorite to go here. You're seeing more people rank him first. I think Shedeur Sanders is a better quarterback prospect than him. And I haven't heard enough from the Kansas City Chiefs assistant general manager that the Titans hired to push me off of that read. You got 2.5 months left until the draft. I think the Titans, they sit down, their scouting department, the coaching staff, everything like that. My situational assumption is that will be a real debate. Certainly has not been settled yet. And at the end of the day, they might end up siding with me here that Shedeur Sanders is the best quarterback in the class. Now, we have free agency to come, right? And there is an idea, maybe the Titans end up going after a guy like Sam Darnold or somebody like that, and they bring in a veteran. At that point, you could defer to whether it be Abdul Carter, whether it be Travis Hunter, or you more seriously take the phone calls you're getting, potentially trading down. But with them sticking in this exercise, we didn't project any trades. And the Titans have their quarterback room. You have a big hole there right now. So we're sending Shedeur Sanders to Tennessee.
I like it. There are definitely, like you said, free agent quarterbacks. They could go and get Aaron Rodgers. Looks like he is now out of New York, which would, I know people are cringing, but like that's potentially there. So that's going to be an interesting one for sure. Number 2, Cleveland Browns. Who do you have them going with?
I have Cleveland going with his teammate, Travis Hunter. Cleveland's a team, of course, that could trade down as well. And they're a team that is also considering veteran quarterbacks so as not to be pushed into a corner of having to take either Cam or Shedeur Sanders with this pick. I think the thing we know about Cleveland and their quarterback situation is that Deshaun Watson will not be their starter next year, one way or the other. I tend to believe that they are going to bring in a veteran, a one-year guy. You sort of get through there through the 2025 season. You have a coaching staff there that is on the hottest of seats heading into next year, led by Kevin Stefanski. And the front office, led by Andrew Berry, is on an extremely hot seat as well. If, for instance, you could convince post-June 1 cut Kirk Cousins to do the reunion with Kevin Stefanski. They worked together with the Vikings. You would sign him for the minimum deal, just like Russell Wilson got for 1 year, as an example, to plug that quarterback hole. That would allow you to draft a guy like Travis Hunter with this pick. I think Travis Hunter, so rarely can you point at a non-quarterback prospect and make the argument that qualitatively he has as much value as the top quarterbacks in a class. You can certainly do that with Travis Hunter. He projects as a field-flipping lockdown cornerback one when he's playing defense, and he's going to play 40 to 50% of snaps on offense as a rookie, and we'll see how many he ends up being beyond that. You're sort of going into unprecedented territory. So some of that, we're going to have to talk it through. Where are we going to start him at? And then we'll give him more if he can handle it. But when Travis Hunter is on the field on offense, for the Browns in this example, he would be the wide receiver 1 every time he steps on the field. And that would kick Jerry Jeudy down to the wide receiver 2. And for folks out there in fantasy world that are thinking like, well, Travis Hunter, he's probably not going to be super fantasy attractive. He only on the field 40-50% of snaps. Says, no. You're going to juice those snaps so that the ball is going to Travis Hunter when he's on the field. What you're taking him off the field for, it's the running and passing concepts that are going a different direction. You're going to try to save the snaps that way. But I promise you, when Travis Hunter is on the field for the Browns, there is going to be heavy targets headed his way. So I do believe that he will be fantasy viable as a rookie, even though he's playing double or maybe a little bit more of the snaps on defense that he is on offense.
Yeah, I like that call it, especially Thor, because this is a team too that you've said, hey, they need more weapons over there. Like Jerry Jeudy had a great year. Yeah, he wasn't just a guy anymore, reached 1,000 yards, but that was with Jameis Winston. So you still need more guys over there. They still have David Njoku, but for fantasy, you want to keep an eye, like you just said, on Travis Hunter. Let's go over to number 3 overall, New York Giants. You have him going with the quarterback here.
Yeah, they get Cam Ward falling right into their laps. Now, a part of this is because I didn't project trades here, right? But it is also a theoretical possibility that just this scenario happens, whether that be Shadir Sanders or whether that be Cam Ward. I don't think the Giants will particularly care. I think they would be thrilled if either one of those guys ends up getting there. And of course, all it takes is either Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter being taken in either of the two slots above them, which at this point you probably say maybe you have a coin flip shot or better of that happening, which would mean that the Giants would not have to trade draft equity to move up into one of the first two slots to get one of these guys. Cam Ward has talked about wanting to be a New York Giant. I'm sure that endears himself as well to the fan base and a front office where you're sort of struggling. You've been struggling since, 2019 when they did the transition from Eli Manning to Daniel Jones. That franchise has been floundering. You must address the quarterback position with a viable long-term starting option. Cam Ward is that for sure. His game is a little bit peaks and valleys, though. It's a little bit of a roller coaster ride. You get the higher highs that you get with Shadir Sanders. Absolutely. Cam Ward has more arm talent than Shadir Sanders. He has a higher octane arm than Shadir Sanders. That goes without saying. However, Shadir Sanders is way more consistent, and you have the elite accuracy there with Shadir Sanders. His pocket presence is a bit better as well. Whereas with Cam Ward, he is always hunting. I have referred to Cam Ward as the John Wick of quarterback prospects. He's kicking down the door and coming in firing. You get the explosive plays with him because of that hunting inclination, but you also get the turnovers because until the whistle blows, until the thing is dead, he is looking to throw the ball downfield. He doesn't like checking down. He does not like throwing it away. He will chuck it up into the third sector as opposed to take it, one of those other two things. Because of that, you're going to have a higher preponderance of turnovers. You're going to have to ride that roller coaster, but you will get those the high octane plays, like I said, and a good fit here for the Giants who need a quarterback exactly like this.
Who is your best comp right now for what you've seen so far with Cam Ward?
Cam Ward was a tough one. If you're gonna make me come off my John Wick of quarterback prospects for him, I would say Jordan Love if I had to do one. But there's elements of different dudes in here, really. The way the ball comes out of his hand, eerily reminiscent of a right-handed Michael Penix from the last class. Both those guys, I mean, you can, it's like when baseball scouts are like, oh, I could hear, I didn't even have to see him swing the bat. Once I heard that the bat hit the ball, I knew that guy was it's like that. You see the ball just detonate out of a guy's hand like that. Penix had that. Cam Ward had that. But Penix stayed in his spot. If you moved him any off his spot, his accuracy started to depreciate. Whereas Cam Ward has a scrambling element to his game, an extend element, a creative element to his game that Michael Penix doesn't. And of course, he doesn't have durability issues either, Cam Ward. That part of Cam Ward's game is probably more evokes a guy like Bryce Young. But then you also have the live by the sword, die by the sword, sort of like a Brett Favre gunslinger type ethos to Cam Ward's game. So there's a lot of disparate things going on. If you're going to hold me to one guy, current starter in the NFL, it would be Jordan Love, who coming out of Utah State, you saw those high octane throws. He did the different arm slots and you get the ball shooting out of his hand no matter what slot it came from. But you would also see wonky decisions. I believe Jordan Love threw 15 interceptions as a senior at Utah State. So you'd see these throws where it's like, dude, what are you thinking? But then you'd also have the no, yes, explosive passes. And that's the same thing you get with Cam Ward.
Let's go over now to the 4th overall pick in this NFL draft. That's going to be the New England Patriots. Who do you have them mocked taking this right now?
So they're an interesting team because you have the myriad different holes there. And, thinking about with Drake May, should we get him help in the form of a wide receiver one in Tetairoa McMillan from Arizona? Should we help out his sieve of an offensive line, which has finished 32 out of 32 each of the last 2 years in pass pro efficiency? Or do we take the best player? I was talking about the scenario where one of the quarterbacks drops to the Giants. It's pretty simple. You need either Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter picked in one of the two slots above you. The Patriots, of course, they don't need a quarterback. So what is the scenario where they can get their hands on either Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter, the two non-quarterbacks in this class who stand above everybody else? It's pretty simple. You need the two quarterbacks to go in the three slots above you in whatever order, and then one of those two guys will fall down to you. That's what happens here. That leaves Abdul Carter for the Patriots. Sorry, Drake May. We're gonna focus on help for you in day two, and hopefully in free agency. To that point, they've already addressed some of those offensive positions that they need. I don't believe that they would be able to turn down Abdul Carter here. Same way, I don't think they'd be able to turn down Travis Hunter in the fourth slot. But in this scenario, Abdul Carter gets there. Abdul Carter's a nightmare off the edge. That kid only played edge for 1 year. He was an off-ball linebacker at Penn State, but he always had the crash downhill violence, the suddenness, the violence. They tried him at the edge this year because he was also really good at shedding blocks. And it turns out that kid found his destiny and was a monster this year. He led the FBS in tackles for loss. And when you see the way that he played, he's also awesome pursuing from the backside as a run defender, as a defensive end, which you very rarely see. But you see some of these elements of his off-ball pass, in his game. And when you realize that kid only played the edge for 1 year in Happy Valley, and you're like, oh my gosh, he was the best edge defender in college football. You only played it for 1 year. You start to dream on the potential going forward. And if we add some more pass rush moves, we work on the technique just a little bit, where could that ceiling be? Patriots would have to take him here, and that's what they do.
They've got a lot of cap space too. So even Patriots fans, if you're looking at that saying, no, we need more weapons, they can do a lot in free agency this year as well. And that's kind of what we're expecting them to do too. Let's go over to the fifth pick overall, Jacksonville Jaguars, Duval. Who do you have them taking here? Duval.
Should I do my lean column?
Please. Please.
I need to practice like Eugene Levy in front of the mirror before I can get that eyebrow thing that he was doing. But Cohen, he has the offensive background, but I think you will see his first pick delineated of his tenure to the defensive side of the ball. Jacksonville's defense was utterly terrible. The way that you fix their offense, it's simply have Trevor Lawrence healthy for the season, and then Liam Cohen's play calling, etc. The defense is what needs immediate reinforcements and help, and we're going to send them Will Johnson. This pick could come down to Will Johnson against his teammate Mason Graham, the interior defensive lineman from Michigan. They won a national title together in 2023. I think, though, that, my thought process with this was Jacksonville is stronger up front, and they have more depth up front than the cornerback position. The Jaguars need somebody across from Tyson Campbell. That's what Will Johnson would do. Will Johnson erased one side of the field whenever he was out there since the start of the 2023 season. Now, he was dinged up in 2024. He missed about half the season. That's where a top 5 talent, if Jacksonville doesn't take him, maybe he falls through the wickets like closer to 8 or something like that. But I do think he is the best fit for Jacksonville, and he is exactly what the doctor ordered there as far as fixing that pass defense. So we're going to send Will Johnson, the cornerback from Michigan, to Jacksonville.
I like that. I can't wait for you to do your impression too. I'll be waiting for that for the next show here, Thor. We'll do it that way.
Yeah. I got to get in front of the mirror. Yeah.
Let's go over to the Las Vegas Raiders here, 4-13 to finish the season. You're looking though at someone for fantasy that we're going to be excited about, Tetairoa McMillan. Tell me about him.
Yeah, very, very excited. Yeah, the aforementioned Tetairoa McMillan. And if he falls down here to Vegas, I think that this card might get turned in really, really quickly. There has been a lot of chatter about that new administration there, Pete Carroll, and they brought in Chip Kelly and the new decision makers that they have there as well. What are they going to do with the quarterback? Everything that we have heard is that they are going to aggressively pursue a veteran in free agency. And they have all the ammo that they need to do that. They have well over $100 million in available cap space. So I would assume that the Raiders sitting here at 6, you probably looking out a couple months out, you don't believe that you have a shot to get one of those top 2 quarterbacks to fall to you. If you address quarterback in free agency, that allows you to look elsewhere with this pick. And what you would be doing is giving the greatest Christmas present to whatever quarterback you had brought in, assuming that that's what happens in free agency with the pick of Tetairoa McMillan, who is a 6'5", 210-pound pterodactyl. I've referred to his catch. He has the catch radius of an Indian god or a fisherman's net in the ocean. You know, it just has these crazy, crazy long arms on this super stretched out frame. And he doesn't drop anything. I mean, that's a kid that makes one-handed catches, no problem going outside the frame. He'll go up and get it where only Tetairoa can get up to. He is a nightmare down the field on rebounds. You know, he easily boxes people out, and he's going to get higher in the sky than you. By far the best wide receiver prospect in this class. This is not a good wide receiver class. After McMillan, you have a fall-off to Luther Burden, who is slot confined and had a bad season last year. Then you have another drop-off. This is one of the worst wide receiver classes we've had the last 4 or 5 years. Tetairoa McMillan is the exception. He is a worthy wide receiver 1 in this class. Vegas goes out and they get themselves a true number 1 to help out not only the new quarterback, but also alleviate some of the stress from their manufactured touch guy, Brock Bowers. Once you have this 6'5", 210-pound pterodactyl downfield, coverages can't just be rolling multiple resources every single play to Brock Bowers. That's going to help him out as well.
Pterodactyl McMillan. I don't know. I'm thinking of a nickname that we can have by the end of the season here, Thor. I kind of like that. Tetairoa Pterodactyl. I don't know. We'll work on it for sure. Let's go a 7th pick here now. You've got the New York Jets on the clock. Who do you have them going with?
This is a tough one. Jay Glazer reported on Super Bowl Sunday that Aaron Rodgers will not be returning to the Jets. That report was interesting because at the end of it, there was a strong insinuation that Aaron Rodgers will be playing. To your earlier point, Kendall, about the potential destination of Aaron Rodgers, but we know that will not be back with the Jets. Unfortunately for the Jets, though, again, you have 2 quarterbacks in this class, I believe, that can come in, step in day 1 and start for you. The Jets are going to be boxed out of that. This is too early to take a guy like Jackson Dart, for instance. So they have to go at the different position. I would assume that the Jets, they're going to be another team that is going to bring in free agent quarterback. I don't believe that is going to be a reunion with Sam Darnold, maybe Russell Wilson or something like that. We assume that they have taken care of that in advance of this. I think after that, offensive line is going to be way up there on the priority list. Now, this is a team last year, of course, could have taken J.J. McCarthy. You could have taken Bo Nix, but instead they took Olu Fashanu after a one-slot trade down with the Vikings, the offensive tackle from Penn State. He ended the season on IR, but he made the brass happy with the way that he played, and he is going to be a pillar for them going forward. He is going to step into one of the starting lineup spots, but if the Jets see both Tyron Smith and Morgan Moses leave in free agency, you need another tackle on the other side there. That's where you enter Kelvin Banks Jr. from Texas. You could start Banks at right tackle. You got Fashanu there at left tackle. The Jets, I believe they are 20th in the NFL right now, heading into the offseason in projected effective salary cap space. If you can take care of those 2 tackle spots without having to spend any money on free agency, and you can wave goodbye to the 2 long in the tooth guys there in Smith and Moses, then you can focus your limited cap resources on other positions, and a quarterback is one of the signs you're going to have to do, and hopefully cobble something together there.
We said this was going to be rapid fire, so we're going to go here at number 8. Carolina Panthers finished the season 5-12, but they did have some positives at the end of the season there with Bryce Young. So who do you have them taking?
Panthers gave up the most points we had ever seen in the NFL last season, and they gave up the 3rd most rushing yards that we had ever seen in the season. You have to fix the defense. Bryce Young, he's showing some flashes, right? And the wide receiving core, it looks like they have some young playmakers there. They have 2 potentially starting caliber running backs in the backfield there. You're going to get Brooks fully healthy next year. You have to, the defense is what needs help there. Now you're going to get some help back just from players getting healthy. Derek Brown, the stud interior defensive lineman, he got injured in the opener this past season. He's going to be back healthy. It would be awesome if you could pair him with a guy like Mason Graham. Mason Graham is super destructive there on the interior, and Mason Graham played next to, at Michigan, on that Natty winning team. And then last season, a player who is fairly similar to Derek Brown, a guy in Kenneth Grant, who we're going to be talking about here in probably 25 minutes or so. But Mason Graham would help give the Panthers one of the best interior defensive lines in all of football, and that would certainly help to turn around that defense.
Before we continue on here, let's go talk to our friends over at DraftKings. Who's scoring big in the NBA this season? You are, with all the new ways to get in on the action with my partners at DraftKings Sportsbook. From monster slams to dishing the rock to cleaning the glass, get behind your favorite players and the prop bets you can make on DraftKings, the home of the NBA player props. Here's something special for first-timers. New DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Take it to the rack with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the DraftKings app now and sign up using code FANTASYLIFE. The crown is yours. All right, Thor, let's continue on here. We are now at number 9 overall. We've got the New Orleans Saints, who do have their head coach in place. It was announced that it is, the worst kept secret in the NFL. Kellen Moore going over there. Finished the season 5-12 last year. A lot of injuries that happened as well. So who do you have them going with here?
Kellen Moore, I can't believe you. All the preparation you could have been doing for the Super Bowl, but you were talking for the Saints. Oh, that storyline went away right away. Okay, sorry about that. I was looking at the script from Saturday. We're gonna give the Saints Michael Williams, the edge rusher from Georgia, who you can has some similarities to Trayvon Walker, who was overdrafted as the number 1 pick a couple of years ago by the Jaguars. But Michael Williams is also a two-way defensive end. The pass rushing, if anyone watched the regular season game against Texas, that was the first game Michael Williams came back from injury. He had 2 sacks. The third one got taken off the board from a face mask. And that's also a guy that sets a hard edge against the run. For a team that needs everything, he might be the best player who is available on the board right now. So you bring in Michael Williams.
All right, number 10, Chicago Bears. You have to be nice because our producer, Matt Swing, is watching us right now record this. So who do you have them taking here?
Yeah, Swing had lots of conversations with me in Mobile about you got to get us some offensive line help. So that's what I'm going to be doing here. Shout out Swing. Will Campbell headed to Chicago here, the offensive tackle from LSU with the 10th pick. The Bears could, Ashton Jeanty could be a possibility. Ben Johnson, of course, was with the organization that took Jahmyr Gibbs at number 12. I just think, you can toss that out. But the Lions, of course, they couldn't start to get fancy with their transactions until they had built that Colossus offensive line. The Bears have a sieve of an offensive line right now. That's what needs to be of the utmost importance right away to build that thing up. Will Campbell would be a nice start in that direction. And then Chicago would be hoping that some of the other young offensive linemen they brought in the last 2 classes, that they take steps forward next year in Johnson's system. And then maybe you cobble together an above average offensive line. Crazy enough in Chicago.
Wow, what a concept here, Thor, an above-average offensive line. I'm sure that'll help anyone when we look at it here. Let's go over to the 11th overall pick in the San Francisco 49ers. Had a down season last year. They're ready to bounce back. Deebo Samuel could be on the move as well, but who do you have slated going to them?
Jalen Walker, the edge dash linebacker hybrid from Georgia, who just heard his teammate Michael Williams' name go off the board. He waits 2 slots here, and then he gets taken by the 49ers. Jalen Walker, the edge part of his game it was sort of like an Abdul Carter corollary, where the Georgia coaches, even though he doesn't have the perfect frame for the edge, they tried him there because he was so good coming forward, and he proved to be destructive coming off the edge. So you can get heat on quarterbacks by moving him there. Linebacker, what he is really, really good at is penning dual threat quarterbacks into the pocket. He was one of the best spies that we saw in college football the last couple of years. He's just like a pest for quarterbacks, and San Francisco could certainly use someone like that who has versatility. They're going to go with Jalen Walker to the 49ers at 11.
All right, I like that one. And all of fantasy is going to be happy with you talking about the 12th overall pick here, Thor, with the Dallas Cowboys, because you've got them getting the guy, Ashton Jeanty, on their squad.
Yeah, it's a cliche, but it's a cliche because it makes sense. If Jeanty gets down to the 12 slot, I would be beyond stunned if Dallas does not end up drafting him. Now, there's a possibility he doesn't get here, right? Chicago, we mentioned at 10. There's a couple other places where they theoretically could look Jeanty's way. But if he gets through the wickets here to 12, I expect this card to be turned in quickly. Dallas, Ezekiel Elliott, the running back they took number 4 years ago, the same people that are going to be making this decision. Ezekiel Elliott will not be on the team next year. Rico Dowdle is an impending free agent. Looks like he might be gone as well. You have to remake the entire running back room. Go out and get yourselves a bell cow. And one of the best running backs we have seen enter the NFL here in the last 10 plus years in Ashton Jeanty.
I was going to say, how good is he, Thor? Because we've heard his name a lot this offseason so far. Do you have a comp that you like, or you can just tell us? Just let us know how good he really is going to be.
He's awesome. Yeah, my comp is LaDainian Tomlinson. I think you have a lot of similarities there, similar in the way that they move, similar frames, and then the ability to hurt defenses as well as receivers, which is something that you saw with Jeanty more in 2023. Tremendous player. And just to give people like a totem in their minds, a couple years ago, Bijan Robinson went number 8. I believe that Ashton Jeanty is a better prospect than Bijan Robinson. Slightly, but I would prefer Jeanty to Robinson, apples to apples.
Oh, wow. You just made all fantasy managers so happy. They're circling his name. They're ready to go. They know who they're going to try and go and get here. Let's go over to the 13th overall pick with the Miami Dolphins. And who do you have them getting right here?
The Dolphins need secondary help really bad at both cornerback and then safety, where Javon Holland and Jordan Poyer are both impending free agents. This is why throughout, I've had the Jeanty pick in every mock. I've also had Malachi Starks, the Georgia do-it-all safety to Miami in each exercise. You can play Starks anywhere. It's sort of like a Brian Branch type thing. You just move him all the nickel. You play him at deep safety if you want. You can try him on the outside, and you can put him in the box as an extra dime linebacker when you're in that as well. Malachi Starks, good fit with Miami.
And a sick name too, by the way. That's a really solid name right there. So I like that one a lot out of Georgia. Let's go over and talk a little bit deeper, because this is another player that fantasy managers are going to be wanting to watch here. Number 14, Indianapolis Colts. You have them taking a tight end who you really like in Tyler Warren. Tell us about him.
Yeah, Tyler Warren, 6'6", 260-pound tight end from Penn State, who absolutely went ballistic this year. After Theo Johnson, the tight end from Penn State, he had gone in the draft last year. And then Penn State got a new offensive coordinator, Andy Kotelnicki, from my neck of the woods with the Kansas Jayhawks. He ends up taking over the play calling duties, and they immediately featured Tyler Warren. He was easily that team's wide receiver 1, and then they would manufacture him all these touches in addition to that. He led the team in rushing at least once in a big game. And you would get the end arounds to him. They would shift him into the backfield. He'd run routes out of the backfield. They even use him on a trick play as a center in a shotgun snap where he was an eligible receiver, and he went down against USC and ended up skying in the end zone and mossing someone for a touchdown. Tyler Warren can do everything. And I think one of the, you have sort of the dual utilities with Anthony Richardson. First of all, we know that Tyler Warren can go downfield and get it, similar probably to Rob Gronkowski, similar type package, similar type athleticism. But then you also have the thing where you're going to be able to help out Richardson with those manufactured touches, be it handoffs or be it the really short shuttle throws. So I think he'd be a big help. And by the way, the general manager for the Colts, the one position that he has told reporters, like, we must improve that this offseason, happens to be tight end. So I think this is a perfect fit, and certainly the number 1 tight end on the board, and he goes to Indianapolis here.
And it would be great, like you just said, for Anthony Richardson. And you've told us before on this show, and you've told me, like, the tight end class, there are some good tight ends in this class this year. Not like when you just spoke about wide receivers where there's huge teardrops. You like this class a lot.
I sure do. Yeah, Colson Loveland for sure is going to be a first-round pick. And then for fantasy owners, Harold Fandon Jr., who we saw in Mobile, and then also Elijah Arroyo from Miami, who we saw in Mobile. They are very skilled receivers as well, different kinds of guys, but they are going to be contributing immediately in the NFL and are of note for fantasy owners as well.
Things we love to hear. Let's go over to the 15th overall pick in the Atlanta Falcons. Finished the season 8-9. Where do you have them going with this pick?
they must address the edge rusher. Terry Fontenot, I address you every single spring, and it's like, you got to take an edge rusher now, got to take an edge rusher now. Once again, they didn't do it last year, and the Falcons finished second to last in the NFL in sacks. The only surprising thing was they rallied in the last month to not finish last, which they've been by far in last prior to that. James Pierce from Tennessee, I think, would be just what the doctor ordered here for the Falcons. James Pierce, what he is not is like the big, strong, hulking end that will set the edge for you. What he is instant heat off the edge when the offense is throwing the ball. I see a ton of Brian Burns in James Pierce, and he would go in there right away and be the Falcons' best pass rusher.
You're talking to them, you're sending them emails, sending them notes saying, hey, here's what you need to do. Maybe they're going to listen to you this year, Thor, going over for the Falcons. We'll see. Let's go over to the Arizona Cardinals, who it looks like, I mean, the rich might get richer here because you got Marvin Harrison Jr. last season. You saw a great season from Trey McBride. So where do you have them going with the 16th overall pick?
I have them stopping the fall of Luther Burden III, the wide receiver from Missouri, who was in the top 10 of every too early mock draft early last May, when everyone started putting them out, and then over the summer. But once we got into the season, they had quarterback injuries there at Missouri. They had weird offensive game plans in some games where they were not manufacturing the touches for Burden. Burden would get frustrated. The first 2 years that Burden was a five-star recruit, went to Missouri. His first 2 years on campus, we got to see the full Luther Burden experience. You just get him the ball within 7-8 yards of the line of scrimmage. Watch him go. That's what his thing is. What would be the best fit for Luther Burden in the NFL? It would be playing next to a really good big boundary receiver who scares defenses deep. Somebody like Marvin Harrison Jr., because at that point you have to play two high safeties. That opens up intermediate spacing for him. The other side of the field in the intermediate, you would have Trey McBride running around. So you're not going to be able to roll any extra resources to Burden. In this situation, he would get pounded with targets. Burden would right out the gate. Now, the explosive plays would be going to his teammates, but especially in PPR formats, this would be the sort of marriage that you would want to see for Luther Burden, thinking about him in fantasy, because he could be flirting with 100 catches as a rookie if he was on this offense. Again, just manufacturing him those short ones, and then he's electric with the ball in his hands. That's what you're looking to set him up to do.
That'd be a really talented offense. If you got those three, we'd want to see a little bit more from Kyler Murray going into the season. Then you have James Conner in the backfield and a couple other guys that popped a little bit. That would be an interesting and probably cheap offense to go and get heading into next season. So that's kind of exciting there. Thor, before we continue on with our 17th overall pick, let's talk with our friends over at New Era. Celebrate the Eagles' second Lombardi Trophy with New Era Cap. Philly earned a return to the biggest stage and delivered, as we can all remember. Wear what the players wear during confetti showers and honor their championship with the official cap of the Super Bowl. Available now, New Era Cap. All right, Thor, continuing right along. We're doing rapid fire, going through your mock draft that everyone can find at fantasylife.com. Let's go to the 17th overall pick in the Cincinnati Bengals, who, almost snuck into the playoffs there, weren't able to do it. Who do you have them going with?
Well, I was going to say first, speaking of New Era, you showed the draft hats. You got to see them at the Super Bowl. Those are slick. Hats off to New Era for we got some cool ones this year with the little pins that are for the teams. Each one has a unique pin. Is cool stuff by New Era this year. As for the Bengals at 17, got to improve your interior defensive line, which was an absolute joke last year. Bengals finished 31st in pass rush win rate from their interior. And they might have been even worse against the run. But outside of that, things are going fun. But outside of that, how was the play, Mrs. Lincoln? BJ Hill, beyond that, his contract is expiring. So, even if you didn't have the struggles, you'd still have to go out and get another starter there. Walter Nolan from Ole Miss would be a perfect fit here because that's a guy who just ransacks backfields. He compares himself to Aaron Donald. I think that's going a bit far. But the combination of quickness and country strength is the thing that evokes an Aaron Donald. Nolan, five-star recruit, like I said, coming out, and he was really, really good last year at Ole Miss. Prior to that, the 2 years he was at Texas A&M was really, really good all 3 years in the SEC and would fill a big need for the Bengals.
Let's go over to I'm going to say our Seattle Seahawks, my Seattle Seahawks. I've got my New Era cap on right now, as you can see here. So I'm ready for it, Thor. 18th overall pick. Where are they going?
You can only say my Seahawks for now, because once the Vikings take Cam Scatterbo in round 3, you have promised to become a Vikings fan. But at 18 in this exercise, we are sending the Seahawks the type of prospect that historically that front office has fetishized, which is offensive tackles with really, really good feet and high RAS scores. Josh Connerly Jr. from Oregon, and up there in their neck of the woods, in that part of the country, he's going to be about as good as we get from this tackle class in that regard. An insane athlete. Josh Connerly Jr. started his high school career as a running back. That's when he hit his growth spurt. By the end of it, he was an offensive tackle who became a 5-star recruit. He signed with Oregon, was their starting left tackle each of the last 3 years. Think of all the big games that they played in, was protecting Bo Nix and then Dylan Gabriel. With Nix, it was his blind side. Of course, Gabriel is the lefty, but over 1,091 career pass pro reps, nearly every single one of them at left tackle in high leverage situations. Connerly only allowed 2 sacks in college. People in their heads are only going to have that image of him getting run over by Mike Green in Mobile at the Senior Bowl, because I think that was their first exposure to Josh Connerly Jr. Josh Connerly Jr. is going to be one of the big risers of the offensive linemen in Indianapolis later this month when he goes ballistic in testing.
The Seahawks have the least amount of money, one of the teams that spend the least on their offensive line. So they need a lot of help there to make things go right. New offensive coordinator coming to town as well. So hopefully that helps. Let's go over to Tampa Bay. Speaking of Mike Green, the edge out of Marshall, what do you see in him going to Tampa Bay?
That's a professional segue, Kendall. And Tampa Bay, you have the head coach in Todd Bowles. He loves his pass rushers. He loves ramping up heat on the quarterbacks, which must have frustrated him greatly this past season when Tampa Bay's defense absolutely stunk and they had to get into a bunch of shootouts. Todd Bowles is heading into this offseason of, I got to find a dude who can terrorize quarterbacks for me. I think he is going to be very attracted to Mike Green of Marshall. That's that kid's game. It's just electric propulsion right at the snap. He's not big, and that's what he gets nitpicked for. But the speed to power, the guy's a nuclear reactor of that immediately when that ball is snapped. That's how you see him bowling over some of these big offensive linemen like we had seen at the Senior Bowl. That's a kid who put up ridiculous sack and tackle for loss stats and pressure rate last year at Marshall. It's exactly what Tampa Bay needs.
Moving right along here, looking at the 20th overall pick in the Denver Broncos, who I thought, Thor, were a year or two ahead of schedule right now from what we saw from them going to the playoffs and everything in a tough division, mind you. So you actually have them going with the tight end that you mentioned earlier in the show in Colston Loveland. So what do you like about him in this match?
He's a super duper skilled receiver, right? And Denver, your ethos this offseason, it's merely to add weapons for Bo Nix. That be it tight end, a receiving tight end, be it wide receiver, and you're going to need multiple of them. Colston Loveland is a nice first step in this regard. And Sean Payton knows if I don't take Colston Loveland here, 2 slots from now, where Jim Harbaugh is sitting Colston Loveland's college coach, that you might have to play Colston Loveland twice per season going forward. Again, it's a guy that Denver really needs. Colston Loveland is what people thought that Greg Dulcich would be a couple years ago. So you're going to stick him right there into the starting lineup, and him and Cortland Sutton, that's where you're going to be funneling those targets in the future.
And you don't hate that for fantasy football either, because you think to yourself, they do need a bit more weapons. I mean, Cortland Sutton, like you just said, was great for fantasy football. Quietly had a great season. Marvin Mims came on as well, but you still need more weapons for Bo Nix, who, again, like I said, was outperforming a lot of people's expectations for fantasy football this year.
That's right. Yeah. But you got to get him more playmakers, right? I mean, as we have more tape on Bo Nix, the defense are going to start taking some things away. But, to Bo Nix's credit, you just had Cortland Sutton and kind of pray for rain with the offensive skill guys there last year. So now you can go and start building those things up. You already have the defense taken care of, and Bo Nix looks like a long-term starter in the NFL. So this would be a big help for him, especially.
Another fantasy football, hopefully star that we're going to be watching, going 21st overall to the Pittsburgh Steelers. What do you like about Egbuka from Ohio State?
He has such an advanced game. It's the kind of guy where, like some of these wide receivers with their measurables, it's the thing that blows your mind. With Egbuka, it's his tape, right? He is a high efficiency, high volume slot receiver in the ilk of his former collegiate teammate, Jackson Smith-Njigba. Just like Smith-Njigba, what Egbuka, where he's not going to blow your socks off, is running the 40 in his shorts. You're not going to be the slowest of pokes, but he is not going to be burning anything there. Where what you love about him, it's the route running, the know-how, the ball skills. He converts everything that is thrown to him. Again, that's where you get that efficiency. He's a chain mover there, with that and the know-how as far as that different stuff goes. Pittsburgh, where you only have Pickens right now and you don't have many weapons outside of that, getting an awesome slot receiver like Emeka Egbuka, who immediately denotes what kind of coverage the defense is in. If it's in zone, he just has that supercomputer where he's like, all right, that dude's going to be there, that dude's going to be here, so I got to get here, and he gets there immediately and makes himself available to the quarterback. Be a good fit with Pittsburgh.
Going over to the 22nd overall pick, Los Angeles Chargers are on the clock. Who do you have them taking?
I have them taking another guy that Jim Harbaugh brought to Michigan, not Colson Loveland, but Kenneth Grant, the big war daddy, who once upon a time, Jim Harbaugh told reporters that Kenneth Grant was a gift from the football gods. That was a guy he signed out of high school. Kenneth Grant was a 350-pounder coming out of high school, and he ran a sub 5-second 40-yard dash. I think Kenneth Grant is underrated. You hear all the talk about his collegiate teammate who he had in the top 5 or 6 there in Graham, but Grant is the war daddy who's going to occupy multiple guys. I'm not saying that his presence allowed Graham to do what he was doing, but it certainly didn't hurt. And Grant is the guy who is going to do the dirty work for you. He's going to be a linebacker's best friend, occupy multiple guys, allow flowing in the second level to the ball. And again, the 3 technique that plays next to him in the NFL, he will also be his best friend because he's going to make sure that guy never gets double teamed.
Another team that I just think outperformed expectations here, Thor, with the Los Angeles Chargers. I think they're a year or two ahead of schedule, and I think it's really important that you just keep building on the momentum that they had with their first year under Harbaugh, like you said. So this is a really important pick for them, and I like it a lot. Let's go over to the 23rd overall pick. Green Bay Packers are on the clock, limped into the playoffs. We all know how that ended, but who do you have them picking in this mock draft?
Texas cornerback Jahdae Barron, his stock is starting to rise, and I think it's going to keep rising and rising. We'll see if he ends up being available at a slot like this. But this was someone, the first mock drafts, you go back like a month and a half. This was a guy who was on the outside looking in of a lot of first rounds. Now he is a consensus first round pick. And again, rising. Coming off a fabulous season for Texas. He was their number 1 outside boundary corner, but they used him in a really cool way where they would shift them around, almost like a safety kind of chess piece, put him at nickel, put him deep. You can put him in the box as a dime linebacker, when you're in dime. And what he's really good at, it's zone coverage. He doesn't play man, but he plays zone. He wants to see the quarterback's eyes. Great instincts, great suddenness, can trigger downhill against the run or jump passing lanes. Eric Stokes, Corey Ballantyne, free agents. Jair Alexander, will he be back? Who knows? Green Bay needs a corner.
Yeah, they've got a lot of questions, but that's one of the biggest ones, and that's probably the position that they need to figure out early and quick there. Let's go over to our Minnesota Vikings.
Okay.
If they draft Cam Skadaboo 24th, I think that's totally fair. But, if they don't go that way, Thor, who do you have them taking with the 24th overall pick?
No, the Vikings are going to use their 3rd-round comp pick on Skadaboo. Hopefully he gets there. But the one pick that they have before that, we're going to give them Shamar Stewart, the interior defensive line dash edge. He's a hybrid player from Texas A&M. Began his career with Walter Nolan, the aforementioned Walter Nolan that we had talked about. That A&M had a historic defensive line class 3 years ago. But Shamar Stewart, 6'5" and change, 281 pounds, with a wingspan of nearly 7 feet. And that's a kid who is going to a 9.5 RAS, I think, is where you would set the bar, the over-under for Shamar Stewart. He's an insane athlete. He's just twitchy as heck, and he's like super duper long with those long levers, gets around the edge really quick, and he was slapping the ball out of the quarterback's hands because it's like, wait, how did that guy? He's like Inspector Gadget, that guy. What I think will be best at the NFL level is a 3-4 defensive end, and that's what the Vikings are looking for.
All right, before we continue on, again, you guys can all go check out this mock draft at fantasylife.com, but let's hear from our friends over at Bud Light.
Hey, you're not actually allowed to drink in a beer commercial?
Since when?
You gotta wait till it's done. Oh,
5,
4, 3, 2, 1.
We said this would be rapid fire, Thor, so here we are, a couple picks left. So let's continue on here with the 25th overall pick in the NFL draft. Houston Texans. Who do you have them going with here?
Texans need offensive line help in the worst way, particularly interior offensive line. I think they need multiple new starters there. CJ Stroud was getting sacked all up and down the regular season, got sacked 8 times against the Chiefs in the playoffs. Gray Zabel, the offensive lineman from North Dakota State, coming up from the FCS, was dominant at the Senior Bowl. Because of that, he is now on the first-round line. He can punch his ticket into Thursday night with a strong showing at the NFL Combine here in a couple weeks. Gray Zabel was the only offensive lineman in Mobile who did not lose a single one-on-one rep. That is wildly impressive in a vacuum. Wow. It's even more so in this case because this was a kid, collegiate tackle at the FCS level, who the NFL wanted at the Senior Bowl to play both guard and center in addition to tackle. So that guy was going up and down the line. He was dominating all comers. I think he is going to end up in the first round, and I think Houston would see him as a center, moving the collegiate tackle into center, take over there.
26th overall pick, the Los Angeles Rams, who they are bringing back Matthew Stafford. It looks like they are going to be parting ways with Cooper Kupp, so that's something to watch out for. But doesn't matter with your mock draft right now because you've got them taking an offensive lineman out of Missouri.
Yeah, Alaric Jackson's a free agent, the left tackle. Rob Havenstein has one non-guaranteed year left on his deal, and the Rams, they have not put much draft equity into offensive line for years and years and years. Armand Mbu is another guy whose stock is rising, comes from Missouri, was a collegiate teammate of Luther Burden. They both stayed there for 3 years, and just like Burden, Mbu was a 3-year starter there. This past season is where that kid went from way off the grid for the NFL to, oh man, this kid's probably going to go in the first round. 90.4 PFF grade as a true junior who is just coming off his 19th birthday. And he is still 20 years old right now. So when you think about that kid going forward, starts to get really interesting. He's only 6'3". We need to see at the combine, how long are those arms? Are they long enough? And is he athletic enough where we can start to comp him to a guy like Rashawn Slater? Or will it get nullifying where he's going to have to move inside? That will probably determine if he is guaranteed to go in the first round. But assuming, that stuff checks out okay, he will absolutely be in range here and could even go higher.
Let's go over to the Baltimore Ravens, 27th pick overall, and you actually have them taking Josh Simmons, offensive tackle out of Ohio State. Why do you think that's a good match for them?
Yeah, we got to run on offensive linemen here.
Yeah,
the Ravens The Ravens will take an injury discount on draft prospects all day long. They do it almost every year. This time you would be getting that in the first round with Josh Simmons, a guy who was knocked out for the season in early October against Oregon, the regular season game. Had that not happened, he would have been in contention, I believe, for tackle one in this class. I don't know if he would have gotten there, but he certainly would have been in that discussion with Will Campbell and Banks. As is, I think he's going to be in that next tier. And in this exercise, he falls down to 27 to a team that needs offensive tackles. And again, is super comfortable taking a guy coming off a season-ending injury to get a discount on him.
Feels like every year the Baltimore Ravens are the ones that after the draft, you just look back and you say, wow, they drafted really well. Is that the same thing for you, Thor, or no? They drafted
1,000%, yeah. It was like with Ozzie Newsome every year, and then they get a new administration. It's like, okay, that will stop, but it's almost, it's the same thing. They just draft the same way every year.
Exactly. It continues on. It's like the Eagles. We're like, how did the NFL let them get this guy? It's like, well, it just kind of sort of happens here. Let's go over 28th overall pick. You've got the Detroit Lions on the clock. Finish the season 15-2. What do you think here? Who do you have them taking?
One last pick of our offensive line run, and this time It's the Lions taking probably this class's best guard, a pure guard, and that's Tyler Booker from Alabama. It's going to be Booker against Donovan Jackson for that. Of course, there's going to be tackle converts that people will say are guard, but I'm just talking the pure guard. You have with the Lions, Kevin Zeitler. Is he going to come back? We don't know. If he doesn't, Graham Glasgow and Christian Mahogany are your projected starting guards. You got to do better than that, and Tyler Booker certainly would count as that. Another guy who is young, a 20-year-old coming off a really good season, and he plays with tremendous leverage is one thing that I like about him. He has the pedigree, been playing for a long time in big spots. And again, he plays with really good leverage in a huge frame. So Tyler Booker, I think, is looking like a first rounder right now, and the Lions would enjoy it if he fell down here.
All right, 29th overall pick, Washington Commanders. Again, another team added to the list that just far outperformed expectations for them. They were supposed to only win like 6 games, I think, Thor, was what the over-under was set at. So who do you have them taking with the 29th pick?
Yeah, they did all the way up until they met up with the Eagles, and then you saw their debilitating weakness. Anyone that was tuning in for that game, the outside boundary corners, like, they stuck Sanders still out there, and Sanders still was giving up like 6 inches in some of the different matchups and like 40 pounds. They need to get a legitimate starting boundary cornerback. Then you can put Sanders still back where he belongs, which is an awesome nickel defender. Benjamin Morrison from Notre Dame, the corner, is another guy who is going to be had on an injury discount. Now, we're waiting for in 2 weeks that at the NFL Combine, getting the news from the medicals. It's a big deal with Benjamin Morrison because he was dominant throughout his collegiate career, and he's the son of a former NFL player. He has all that stuff going for him, but he got knocked out for the season in October with a hip injury. And when you start talking about season-ending hip injuries to NFL evaluators, it's one thing where they get super duper skittish. That's one where all 32 medical staffs are going to be looking really closely at Benjamin Morrison because he has this really wide band of outcomes. So it's like if he gets good news, could go higher on it. Gets bad news from a lot of those medical staffs. That's why every team is going to need to investigate. And then where would they be comfortable ending up taking him? I think right now you would predict late first round, and he would be a fabulous pick for the Commanders, who need a player exactly like him.
Yeah, they need something over there to get them over a team like the Eagles, like you just said. Let's go over to the 30th overall pick here in the Buffalo Bills. Who do you have them taking?
I have him taking Derek Harmon, the interior defensive line from Oregon. He transferred to Eugene about a year ago at this time, and he absolutely went off his last season. He led all FBS interior defensive linemen with 39 hurries. You think about him playing next to Ed Oliver and the ransack into the backfield. Bills needed one more interior guy, and I think he fits the bill.
Let's go 31st pick. Nice. I liked it. I was going to say it. I figured it was a good joke. Let's go get some Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes some weapons here. You have him taking actually a wide receiver with the 31st overall pick. What do you like in Matthew Golden from Texas?
Yeah, I know Chiefs fans might be yelling at me, give us offensive line after we just watched that Super Bowl. Well, I would have, except if I had six straight ones going, right before this. That makes the value on the board right now, I think, for the Chiefs. Matthew Golden, the wide receiver from Texas. The Chiefs, impending free agents, Hollywood Brown, DeAndre Hopkins, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Justin Watkins. You're going to have back Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy. Need to add one more starting wide receiver. Matthew Golden also went to Texas just like Xavier Worthy. They never played with each other, though. Golden just transferred there last year at this time, but thinking about their games together, I think they would be really good complements for one another. So we go Matthew Golden, 31 to the Chiefs.
I like that. Rashee Rice coming off an injury, so we'll have to, wait and see what his rehab is looking like. But yeah, getting him some more weapons, like you just said, is going to be big for them as well as offensive line, like you just said. Let's finish things off here, Thor, with the Philadelphia Eagles. You just won the Super Bowl, but now who are they getting in this draft, in this mock draft?
Well, what they get every year, Roseman is very much like the Ozzie Newsome thing that we were talking about before, where he just takes the steals. It's like he doesn't go in myopic into a draft. He just waits for the gift that the NFL pushes down the board to him every time. In this case, that is Nick Scorton, the edge rusher from Texas A&M, who I think the NFL is going to be a little bit punitive with because he's not going to test well in Indianapolis. In fact, he might be skipping the 40-yard dash. But what he is the war daddy edge, the guy who is going to set the hard edge. He's going to improve your run defense and then the speed to power bull rushing element of Scorton's game. The Eagles, you have Brandon Graham retiring. You have Josh Sweat, an impending free agent. You need to address edge. Nick Scorton falls right into your laps. This is a perfect pick.
I love it. I love it. Well, Thor, thank you so much for it. Like we said, this was rapid fire, everyone. So you went through every single pick in that mock draft. But if you want to dive a little bit deeper, fantasylife.com, that is where you can go and see the full article from Thor Nystrom, 100% free. While you're there, make sure you go subscribe to that newsletter. We're going to continue on with Thor Thursdays. Appreciate everyone hanging out with us, and we'll see you here next time.